Hello and welcome to this presentation. My name is Eugene Yeager. Today we will explore podcasting to grow your brand. But first, some context. In case you haven't noticed, the world is under attack. It's not giant killer robots from another world. It's the tiny robots we built ourselves. I'm talking about our phones. So slim, so smart, and so addictive. In the last few years, there's been growing anger at Silicon Valley and the tools it makes. Some people have gone tech-free. Others still embrace the online world. Me, I'm somewhere in between. I've been a travel writer and freelance journalist for over 10 years, and I use technology to support my work around the world. Every single day, my phone supports my life. I have my yoga app to keep me grounded, my planning app to keep me organized, and so many more. One of my favorite apps is the one I use for podcasts, and it makes sense. Podcasts don't interrupt me when I'm doing other things. I'm the one who chooses when to listen. Podcasts also don't grab my attention for a short-term fix. They hold my attention in a way that lasts. Even though I've always felt this amazing connection to podcasts, I never thought of starting my own. I was happy to live my #best life as a freelance writer. But as more print publications struggled in the online world, it became harder to make a living doing this work. And so I made a change. In March 2018, I launched my Cape Town travel guide blog. It was my way of sharing my writing as my own publisher on a platform I could control. And I got great feedback as the blog grew for over a year. But as the times kept changing, I had to keep changing too. At this stage, I had launched a side career as a television and voice actor. And the more that career grew, the more I realized I could use these new skills with Cape Town Travel Guide. So in June 2019, the blog became a podcast. Once I made that switch, the results were incredible. Engagement and growth increased almost overnight and have stayed that way ever since. I've also kept podcasting and have no plans to stop. There are so many benefits of podcasting. First, your audience gets to hear your actual voice. This means you can form deeper and more intimate one-to-one connections. Second, the field is less crowded. This makes it easier to stand out and be seen as an expert. Both of these were clear during the COVID-19 pandemic. With influencers stuck at home, unable to annoy the world with their empty posts, podcasters could still share their message with people who needed a reassuring voice. And even with lockdowns across the globe, the total number of podcasts reached 1 million for the first time. When it comes to podcasting, there are 5 main objections I often hear. They relate to topic, audience, money, time, and difficulty. And today we will overcome them one by one. Challenge number 1 is finding a topic. You might think, okay, podcasting has value, but I can't podcast because I have nothing to say. And my response is, yes, you do. First, think about what you're good at. Think about your talent, your training, your strengths, your skills. Think about what other people ask for your advice on because they see you as an authority. If you podcast based on your experience and your expertise, you have more chance of success. Of course, what we're good at and what we enjoy are not always the same. That's why you should also think about the things you like doing or discussing, so much that you do it all day if you could. If you podcast with love for your topic, your energy and enthusiasm will inspire your audience. Next, think about the other podcasts in your space. In this case, competition is a good sign because that means there's interest from listeners. But if there are no podcasts on your topic, maybe no one cares. Once you've found your niche, you need to drill down even more. The more focused you make your topic, the better. My first idea was to podcast about travel as a whole, because that's my power and my passion, but that was too broad, so I chose to focus on just Cape Town. Challenge number 2 is finding an audience. You might think, okay, I have a topic, but I can't podcast because no one will listen. And my response is, yes, they will. To understand what your listeners want, you need to understand who they are. And to do that, you have to start with one person at a time. You have to know every detail of your ideal listener in terms of age, gender, hobbies, career, and much more. That's who you'll think about every time you record your show. Once you know who your listener is, you have to learn what their problems are. This is easier when they happen to be real people in the real world, but you can still learn what people want even if you don't know them yet. For example, you can join online groups to ask questions and see where people need help. Once you know who you're talking to and what they need, you can make a show to help them. And this is where the magic happens, when you podcast with power and passion for a clear person with a clear problem. A great way to be of value is to remember that podcasting is a one-to-one medium. You don't need a big, booming radio DJ voice. It's just you talking to one person in a casual and down-to-earth way. Challenge number 3 is about money. Yes, you can podcast for free, but as we've learned lately, if a service is free, you are the product. They'll either sell your data or place restrictions on your show. So to build a podcast you control, you have to pay the cost. First, you need podcast cover art. This is the first thing people see, and it needs to make a good impression. If yours is bad, no one will listen. But if yours is bold enough to stand out, but simple enough to explain your show, people will click. Next, you need a microphone. Not your smartphone or the one on your laptop, but a separate external microphone. It's best to start with something simple. Use it properly in a good recording space, and then upgrade later. Next, you need a website. Not a free Blogger or Tumblr account, but a professional website with your own domain name. This will be the home where people can access your show. Finally, you need a media host. Even if your website host says they offer unlimited storage and unlimited bandwidth, they often restrict you from hosting media files and could even shut down your account if your podcast grows too big. That's why you need a separate media host to store and distribute your MP3s. At this point, you might be adding up numbers and thinking, wow, that sounds potentially pricey. Is it really worth it? For me, the answer is a definite yes. I say that because my podcast has been the best marketing tool I've ever used. And that's the approach the best podcasters take. They don't try to make money from the show itself. They use the show as a way to build their brands. A great example in the travel space is the KLM podcast. It's called The Journey, and it's all about inspiring travel stories from around the world, with hardly any mention of the airline at all. Challenge number 4 is about time. I get it. Nowadays, everyone is busy, and you might think podcasting will just make that worse. But your show doesn't have to be a burden if you do it right. First, don't start with an in-depth documentary podcast. Choose a simple format where, for example, it's just you talking to the audience. Also, find a balance between frequency and length. A 1-hour show every single day is too much, but a 5-minute show once a month isn't enough. So yours might be 15 minutes a week. Find whatever works for you. Of course, your format isn't set in stone. You can start small and grow later. But a great way to save time is to keep things the same. For me, that means having the same start, the same end, and the same structure in every episode. But if yours is an interview show, you could, for example, ask the same questions to every single guest. Another great way to save time is to work in longer sessions. Don't do 1 hour here and 1 hour there. Instead, block off a full day to work on your show, and maybe even record several episodes at once. If you work ahead and have content ready and waiting, you can take time off without falling behind. Now, you might be thinking, wow, a full day to podcast? That's way too much time. And maybe it is. But the beauty of podcasting is that you don't have to do it yourself. In my case, I work with an amazing audio producer who edits my show every single week. That's why it's so important for you to find the right people to make the process easier for you. The key is to find the right balance. And this applies to everything in life. If you do it fast and cheap, the quality will be low. But if you want high quality, you have two choices. Either spend the time doing things yourself to save money, or spend the money outsourcing things to save time. The choice is up to you. Challenge number 5 is about difficulty. Even if you have the topic and the audience and the money and the time, you might still be feeling overwhelmed. You might think, podcasting sounds great and I really want to do it, but it's just too hard. So, as we near the end, here's my action plan to get you started. First, listen to as many shows as you can. Right now, there are around 30 million podcast episodes in the world. So, no matter what interests you, there's bound to be something for you to enjoy. As you listen to more and more podcasts, you might find some that your ideal audience would listen to as well. If so, ask to be a guest on those shows. This is a great way to reach new people and work on your speaking skills before launching your own show. If you can't be a guest on a show, you can be a sponsor instead. Just don't get fussy about numbers. Remember, podcasting is about quality over quantity. For example, if you had 50 followers on social media, that wouldn't get you very far. But if you could speak to a room of 50 people who actively chose to be there and are a perfect fit for your brand, that would be powerful. If you really want to benefit from podcasting, you have to start your own show. You'll be confused at first, and that's okay. You'll make mistakes, and that's okay. Your voice won't sound the way you expect it to, and that's okay. Just start. Once you take the first step, you have to take the next one, and the next one, and the next one. The more you podcast, the more you learn. And the more you learn, the better your show gets. One way to keep going is to make it fun. Podcasting began in 2005, and it's still evolving every single day. So bring a sense of curiosity to everything you do. Change the format and try new things, see what works and see what doesn't. Just have fun. The best way to keep inspired for the long term is to have a reason for your show. Not money, not fame, but something more. My podcast has always been about sharing the things I love about Cape Town. I grew up in a conservative community at a very difficult time in South Africa's past, and all my life I never really felt like I fit in. But when I moved to Cape Town in 2004, everything changed. I finally felt accepted. Even after all these years, I still live in Cape Town. And even as my career has taken me to amazing places around the world, Cape Town is still my home. That's why I feel inspired to record my podcast every single week. And that's why you need a bigger reason for your show. I believe that all of us, every single one of us, has value to share with the world. And yet, so often these days, we get lost in all the noise of the online world. That's why now more than ever, I believe in podcasting as a way to finally speak up and be heard. This is your chance to find your true voice, have a real impact, and make lasting change. Thank you for listening to this presentation. If you'd like a free copy of my new podcasting book, please visit my website. You can also contact me for a free podcasting consultation to help you lay the foundation of your show.